Morning, everybody. It is January 12th, 2026. Welcome to my channel. Of course, over the weekend we had a lot of news. You have Powell talking about Trump having a DOJ investigation, serve subpoenas about the renovation project. That's causing a stir. We also have Trump talked about it last week. He wants to put a cap on interest rates on credit cards for a year. That is taking down credit cards companies this morning. So financials are weak. All right. We got semis are weak, technology's weak, and Staples is getting love this morning. Walmart's about to go to the Nasdaq exchange, and it's going to be added to the Nasdaq 100, I believe. So Walmart's getting some love. Silver is skyrocketing again, and I saw um, over the weekend, provided by one of my good friends, Rosita, that she was showing me that a lot of banks are short silver and they're in trouble. And I think they have to cover their positions by January 20 something. So it's pretty nuts. They're getting torched. So that's what's going on. Okay. We're kicking off earnings season this week, starting with banks, which they usually start with the banks. Okay. On Friday, as for myself, oh boy, I didn't have a trade. However, I was very close to going long. I just didn't get a setup that I typically like to see. In retrospect, there was a demand zone, or what you would call an order block in ICT, that held because we swept a bunch of liquidity, and all it was that was a trap, big bear trap. I talked about that. That could happen. It happened, and then I was just like, ugh. And then like the pullbacks that came later, I was ready to go long, but they didn't really set up the way I typically like either. Like I said, if I was to trade it, I would have made money, but it would have been kind of like not my style to chase a little bit. Um, but that was the market. But now the market's taken back all of that gain, and we're back again in the middle of the muck here. Basically, at ultimate balance in the Nasdaq and ES futures, like I've been talking about, this market is in like a flux with technology just not doing anything, and it's almost 35% of the market cap weight. So, and now that you have financials getting weakness, so we'll have to see. Okay, I just saw something too that Trump, and like I said, I don't know what to believe, but actually said he had no clue about the Department of Justice investigation into the Fed. He said he didn't even know. I don't know. I mean, been very vocal about the Fed should be more aggressive cutting rates. Who knows, right? But that's what's going on right now. All right. Yeah, let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the month, the week, the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. Also, you like to use anchor VWAPs, market internals, which are my bread and butter. Bookmap as well. However, I'm not gonna lie, I've caught the bug. Never thought I'd say it, but the framework I'm using to execute my trades is ICT, and makes a lot of sense when you use it correctly. It makes a lot of sense. It really does. It's a beautiful framework. Like I said, I still use my edge and internals and what I just said, finding structure. But the framework is something that's, to me, makes so much sense. It really makes a lot of sense. Okay? Now, hopefully, you join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert. I'll give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, the market, the leaders and the laggards. and a bunch of technical analysis followed by that. Okay, and then I give you the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and the ES futures. All right, now if you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to go to my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? There, I give you intraday commentary. I generally go live every day with a little small community, and I give you my thoughts on the market. I'm pretty accurate with intraday, being very accurate what the market should do. I would say probably within the next 10 to 15 minutes to the day, because obviously something can always change. But I'm pretty accurate of what the market could do based on internals. Okay, so sign up there. You also get my weekly expected move indicator for free. I just ran it via Python this morning. Very powerful indicator. All right, you get that for free. All right, so sign up. Now, let's get right into the futures watch list here. Let's see what's moving. Now, you can see the VIX is almost up 10%. We're almost at a 16 VIX. Okay, silver is a monster, up 7.66%, up $6. This silver thing, wow. Wow, wow, wow. I'm used to silver being around $19, $20, $85 for an ounce of silver. Crazy. Gold also moving up 2.66. Okay. Ethereum's up 1.22. 10-year yield is up. That's not going to help mortgage rates. 10-year yield is back up, almost to a 4.2 yield. Bitcoin is up 0.39. Russell's down 0.24. Crude's down 0.37. Dollar's down 0.44. 30-year bonds are being sold. 30-year bonds are being sold, which will make rates go higher. ES down almost 0.5%. Oh, it is over 0.5%. The Dow is down 0.69%. And the Nasdaq, the laggard, is down 0.73%. Okay, moving on to the Max 7 Plus. Okay, Eli Lilly is flat. Then you have all laggards. All laggards. We'll go over the 50 percenters. All right, Microsoft down 0.56. Tesla's down 0.60. Google's down 0.65. Meta's down 0.80. Nvidia down 0.91. AMD down almost a percent. Broadcom down 1.44%, and JP Morgan down 2.35. They report earnings this week, I believe. Okay, let's just make sure that 113 tomorrow. Okay, moving on. Top sectors. Okay, there's your mining stock. Miners, right? NEM up 3.77. Walmart, I talked about it before, joining the Nasdaq exchange, leaving the NYSE exchange, going to the Nasdaq 100, I believe on January 20th. Palantir's up 0.86. Chevron's up 0.64. Now laggards, Oracle down over 0.5%. Goldman Sachs down 0.65. Uber down 0.75. Exxon down 0.77. United Healthcare is down 1%. Qualcomm is down 1%. And Visa, remember I talked about the credit cards, almost down 2%. 2%. Okay? That's really rocking the financials with credit cards with that cap of 10% interest rates that Trump is going to do for a year. Okay? That's really going to eat into their profits. All right? Now, moving on to the granulars. What we got going here? SoundHound is up 5.36. Alibaba up 4.35. Gold Junior Miners up 3.73. Affirm up 3.55. Iris Energy up 2.76. And gold, the ETF gold, up 2%. And Block, XYZ, ticker XYZ, up 2%. Now, who's lagging here? Ooh. I believe this is Abercrombie and Fitch. I don't know why they're down so much, but they're almost down 16%. Let's see here. Guidance. Abercrombie and Fitch expects fiscal 2025 EPS range 10.3 to 10.4. Reverse FactSet 10.17. All right. Interesting. Abercrombie and Fitch getting smoked. I think this is Capital One. Financials down 6.90. Macy's down 4.19. Maybe in sympathy with retail. Abercrombie and Fitch, not sure. American Express, more credit card, down 3.68. Is this Citibank? I believe this is Citibank. Yep, Citigroup. Okay. That's down as well. Like I said, a bunch of financials are going to be down. Okay, Kohl's, Intel, Oscar Health, CrowdStrike, those are all down. Okay, let's move on to sectors. Sectors, what do we have? Basic materials, no shock there. That's the metals, up 3.35. Staples getting love this morning, up 0.33. All right, good. Let's see here. Communications down 0.27, discretionary down 0.34, technology down 0.74, semiconductors down almost a percent, and the financials down over a percent, down 1.17%. Okay? So as it stands right now, the heavyweights are weak. Okay? Basic materials, staples are not going to move your market. They're not. Okay? You follow me enough, you know those are lightweights that are leading right now. They are not moving markets. So maybe, who knows, that might reverse off the open. I don't know. Okay. Let's move over to the economic calendar for this week. What do we have going on here? We have Fed Bostic, Fed Barkins, and Fed Williams speaking today. We also have 10-year bond auction at 1 p.m. I hope to not be trading by then, but if I am, I'm going to take note of that. All right. We also have this week CPI. We have PPI. And then what else we have? That's basically the big news this week. Now, as far as earnings, let's go to the calendar for earnings. In one sec here. I'll pull up those earnings. Boom. All right, here's the earnings this week. JP Morgan tomorrow, Delta Airlines tomorrow, Bank New York Mellon tomorrow before the open. All right. Now, before the open on Wednesday, Wells Fargo, Citibank. Okay. Bank of America. What else here? Taiwan Semiconductors on Thursday, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, First Horizon, okay, and PNC and State Street. So a bunch of financials this week. That's the earnings. All right, let's go back to the economic calendar. We're going to go to the juice here to see. We do have the tariff SCOTUS Supreme Court when January 14th, I believe. Yep. Okay. January 12th today, Trump at an event at 3:30. Hope to be done by then. So Wednesday, Wednesday is our Supreme Court opinion on tariffs. That will be very important. Okay. Now, I talked about the investigation from the Department of Justice into the Fed. That's pretty much what's been on the news over the weekend, with Powell talking and saying that I guess the Fed's independent nature is at risk because if the current party that's in charge doesn't like their fiscal policies, I guess. All right. Basically, Trump wants lower rates, and they haven't been accommodating. Okay. That's that. Let's go over to some stock news now. Lululemon stock rose 0.4 after the sportswear retailer said it expects fourth quarter revenue and profit to be toward the high end of its previous forecast range. Citigroup stock tumbled 4%. JP Morgan stock fell 3%. Bank of America dropped 2.5%. American Express shed 4.8 after President Trump called for a one-year cap on credit card interest rates at 10%. Okay, remember I mentioned that earlier. Apple stock fell 0.2, outperforming the wider market after Counterpoint Research said the tech giant led the global smartphone market in 2025 with a 20% share as shipments rose 2% on the year. All right, here's the Exxon. Stock fell 0.8 after President Trump said he may sideline the oil major from Venezuela's energy sector, criticizing the company's response to his push for U.S. oil producers to move quickly back into the country. Walmart, as I explained earlier, stock gained 3%, with the retail giant, which shifted its listing to NASDAQ from NYSE exchange last month, was set to join the NASDAQ 100 on January 20th. Duolingo stock fell 1.9 after the company announced Chief Financial Officer Matt Scarupa will step down after nearly 6 years in the role. Sun Country Airlines stock soared 14% after the Allegiant Travel agreed to buy the company in a $1.5 billion cash and stock transaction. All right, that's what's going on there. Now, Trump team ramps up attack on Fed Powell with criminal indictment threat. Talked about that earlier. Financial stocks all fall as Trump's rate cap plan rattles investors. Let's see. We talked about that. Uber faces sexual assault trial in Arizona. All right, let's see here. U.S. stock index futures retreated as the Trump's administration's latest attack on the Federal Reserve revived concerns over its independence. While a proposed one-year cap on credit card interest rates weighed on financial shares, the risk-off mood spilled into European stocks, with stocks slipping as traders turned cautious. In Asia, Chinese stocks climbed to a fresh decade high, led by artificial intelligence and commercial aerospace shares, as investors cheered a strong start to the year for onshore markets, with record turnover. Separately, the dollar fell against the most major currencies. Okay, let's keep moving. If I don't see anything that's really earth-shattering, I'm not going to mention it. We already talked about it. All right, we're done. We're done there. All right, let's get into market internals. My bread and butter. My bread and butter. All right. So, what did we have on Friday? Well, you had a strong tech. Strong tech off the open. You had weakness in healthcare. But pretty much the market was going to go up. Now, that was a wild open. Very wild. Very, very wild open. Okay. Just pretty much the market was, I wouldn't say unbelievably strong, but pretty strong. Okay. Like I said, I was waiting for pullbacks. This pullback right here, right? That was okay, right? Right here was like I thought about it, but I just didn't like these equal lows, and then it took off. Okay, so I wanted to be bullish. All right, that was probably your shot. This pullback, another pullback, right? But that's basically the market internals. They just weren't weak. They just weren't. Especially with tech leading like that, it's going to be very hard for the market to come down. All right, very hard for the market to come down. All right, now we can move on to daily charts. All right, so on Friday, we made all-time highs. Okay, we opened here, pushed down to the previous week's highs and this trend line, and then that's where it got bid up. That was quite a sweep. I'll show you liquidity on Friday. That's where I wanted to even more go long early in the session. And like I said, it pulled back to basically like an order block or like a small demand zone, and that was all she wrote. And I thought about jumping in. I was like, this could really rocket higher, in which it did. Right? It really rocketed higher, and then it had a pretty nasty selling bar. Pretty nasty, which made you go, okay, is this going to be all taken back? But kind of held. Okay. Now, where are we now? 690. We're almost $4 down. So we are 690.79. We are right around here. We're by the open of Friday. Okay. We're by the open of Friday. Set an all-time high. Okay. Now, like I said, we're in the middle of the muck here. This is not a good place to be. Look, if you want continuation, you're going to want to open up in here somewhere. We're all the way back inside the range and inside this little balance area here. It's just not the greatest. Okay. Let's look at futures. This is what I'm talking about. Look at futures, right? Look at all of this trading. And look, we're back. See how we're back into this price range? Ultimate balance. We're back into ultimate balance, right? So now look, if you look at 24-hour sessions, which these are, we just swept that session of Friday. Now we're starting to push back up. This just makes it messy, okay? Really messy. It could be a very choppy day. It's Monday. You do have a daily demand zone here, It's pretty big, but I would say this swing low is pretty important here at the 69.35 level. Makes it very tricky, and it's Monday. Makes it very tricky. Okay, let's move on. Qs. I could tell no one's watching because I didn't have that up. I apologize for that. That was so. Here's real quickly. That means no one's watching. Let's see here. There's your SPY. There's your SPY. I'm sorry about that. Whoever watches this back. So here's your SPY. Let's put up the daily chart. That's probably why I didn't do that. All right. Like I said, hit off this last week's highs and this trend line. Came all the way at me in all-time highs. I said we're back down to the open. In futures, I was just saying you're in the middle of the muck here. You're back. You took out Friday session lows, and now it's just middle of the buck. All right, moving on to the Qs. Here, Qs broke out of that wedge. Right, had a nice move. Made new weekly highs. Where are we now? 622. Back inside this wedge. Right here. By the open. By the 90 MA daily. Just in the middle of the crap again. Look at that. You're just in the middle of ultimate balance. All right, we'll look at that. It's better to look at my 1 hour charts. Okay, then we got the futures here. Just not great. Look at this. Look at these sessions. It's just, this is balance. Okay. And you didn't take out, this is interesting, you didn't take out the Friday session lows of the 24 hour. You didn't take it out, but you did hit the 50-day moving average. Just not, it's not great. I don't have high conviction. I can say we chop around. We'll probably be in balance today unless something comes out. Like I said, financials with that credit card cap. If you have that week in technology week, it's going to be very hard for the market to go higher unless off the open they just get bought. I don't know. Okay. Now, if you want to look at the breadth, let's look at that breadth. Got pretty nice. The breadth got pretty nice. Look at that. Look at this breadth. We haven't seen these numbers since last August. So we are almost 70% of stocks over their 50-day moving average. And believe it or not, the tech sector is the laggard. If this tech sector was strong, this market would be ripping. Look at the XLK. Look at that. Ugh. It hasn't gone anywhere. But if it does, wow. Right? But right now it's down here, the bottom of this balance. Okay? So we got to keep an eye on that. That's what really moves our markets, folks. Okay? Moving on to the hourly charts now. Let's look at these together. Let's go hourly charts now. All right, let's look at this together. What do we have? What do we do on Friday? This was the key, right? So this one bar, right, swept all that liquidity, this liquidity, and this liquidity. And I saw that and I was like, okay, if this closes back up and then you just got this rip-roaring bar, right? And then all it needed was a little more to take out this swing high. And then we just hung out here. Okay. We made new all-time highs in futures. Forgot to say that. We did finally make new all-time highs in futures. However, when we opened on Sunday at 6 p.m., we just dropped like a stone. Where? Back to ultimate balance. Okay? So as nice as we came up, we came right back down. And now you're in that warm, snuggly bed of ultimate balance. That level's around 69.60. Okay, so this could go either way. Okay? That's how I have to look at this. You're in ultimate balance. This really can go this way or this way. I think we're in for, you have a move up and a move down. Maybe we're tired and we just do this today. I don't know. Okay. I don't never know what's going on in the markets, and you have a flat month-to-date anchor view up here. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. A flattened view up just means price is not doing much, right? Because we went up, we went down, and we're back to ultimate balance, and that signifies that. Okay. You have a large bearish for value gap here. That's that purple box. You have a supply here, a supply here. We don't really have that great of demand zones here down until down here. Okay. So, like I said, not the best chart to look at today. Not the best. Now, if we're looking on the NASDAQ, okay, also coming out of ultimate balance. All right, your 2.5, let's call it 2.56, 2.57, 2.56 and a halfs. That's ultimate balance. Okay, we're above that, but we just went up and went back down. We actually just broke that supply zone, but we're in that bearish for value gap. So I can get rid of this. Okay. And I didn't show this before on the ES, but it's important to note that this swing low took out this sell side liquidity. Okay. Swept that. Right. Then it came, it's this swing low was put in, right? And then the market dumped, taking the swing low out. Then the market closed back in ultimate balance, and now look, you're hitting this swing high, this buy side liquidity here. And now it's really, do we go back down and test this swing low to go further, or do we just start ping ponging? I don't know. Okay, I really don't know. Anytime you're by ultimate balance, you have a good shot of just going like this until we figure out what we want to do. Remember, CPI is tomorrow, I believe. The Supreme Court is having that opinion on tariffs on Wednesday. There's a lot. Okay, there's a lot going on. So this is Monday. You got to sit back or chill. This chopping, I could see a lot of choppiness that could be in store for today. Unless, obviously, there's always news catalysts. Okay? We're going to move on from that. We're going to go right into the market profile, volume profile. Gives us a nice look of the overnight session. Okay. Here's our market profile, volume profile. We can push this down a little bit. Okay. Get a quick look at the composite volume, the weekly profile here. Right here, ultimate balance. And then you have some ugly looking profile actually. Price is here. Okay. Price is here. We're below the open of ES futures on Friday. So this meant nothing. Taken right back. Taken all back. So pretty much a crapshoot. And I don't like trading crapshoots. Something will appear today, and it's just a matter, do I want to pull a trigger on it? I don't know. So let's look at some really, it's not really hard to look at some levels here. Okay. You do have that 69.40 here, the 35. That's that swing low I talked about earlier. You do have right here like a little demand. So we're going to mark that off. We have ultimate balance here, our 69.60. We're going to include our overnight lows, 69.50 here. We do have supply that has not been broken. We do have a big, at least a 6-hour bearish for a value gap here, this purple box. You have some single prints here as well. Okay, single prints as well. And you have supply up at the top of this overnight highs. And we have Friday's highs, last week's highs, of course, up here, which really does not have a good excess at it on it. Okay, so this is just not the best to be. You're not at a key liquidity level here. You know, this could be set up for, like I said, a Monday just chop fest. Um, let's split this session out. Okay. We'll get right into scenarios now. All right. Let's just start with the bull side. Okay, we are above ultimate balance, but we're basically on it and in it. It could be very choppy here. Not a fan. Okay, but what we're doing here is we are starting to accumulate, which makes sense around ultimate balance, right? So if you are thinking of a long and you know anything about ICT, the power of three, the AMD model, the accumulation, manipulation, distribution, you want to see in the bull case some manipulation. So we're accumulating. So maybe take out the swing lows. That would be your sweep. Some lower highs. Get the distribution leg here. Take out this right here and see if you can work off this bearish value gap, because there is poor structure up in here. And maybe we tap into Friday's most traded price. Okay. So that's one. Honestly, if we dropped fairly down to here, that would make the market kind of weak. We could bounce here, but honestly, this would probably be the better bet. Okay, and try to work off this bearish value gap. All right, so that's what I'm like. Honestly, that's what I'm looking at here. Now, of course, if you want to be conservative, we could break this right here, this supply like this. Try to work some off, then maybe you get a pullback somewhere in here to go along as well. That's all I'm looking for. And like I said, I'm not very confident the way this chart is. I'm just not. I'm just not. Now you also have to remember here, we're 100% net short. Okay, in the overnights. That's still the overnight inventory is pretty much 100% net short. So you just took out Friday's lows. You swept that with the overnight low. So that's what I'm saying. This could easily just come right back up if there's nothing in the markets that are anything. So um, let's talk about a short. Okay, same premise here. We're accumulating here, right? My boy doesn't like Mondays. So, and I have no not like Mondays, but Mondays tend to be a little lackadaisical, right? However, this Monday in particular at Ultimate Balance, yeah, it's not the best chart. Even if it wasn't Monday, if this was Tuesday, I still would be like, eh. So if we're looking for shorts, okay, remember we're accumulating here. You have equal highs right here. So what are we looking for? Bearish for value gap above us. We're in supply, right? So if we did this, whoop, put a nice little wick in, that could be your manipulation. Come back in, pull back. You get that short through ultimate balance. Take out the overnight lows at your swing low and start to ride down to this bullish for value gap down here around 69.35, this swing low here. Okay. Now, depending on how weak the market is, this is ultimate balance. So you could get a really rip-roaring move, maybe down to last week's lows. Okay. It's ultimate balance. Okay. And we do have buyers from the lows here. That could be fuel to just go lower. Remember, that is bearish news for those financials. Financials are not looking good for the whole year with that credit card cap from President Trump. Okay? I don't want to be too high up in the overnight range to short. Now it depends, okay? There is single prints here. You can see the very thin volume here. Maybe I would put a marker at the half point, the midpoint of the overnight 79s or 86s in this area. That's probably as high as I'd want to go. Okay? If you get a nice wick, that's probably as high as I want to go. Any more than the 50% of the range of Friday, you get up here. The market's probably pretty strong. Not crazy strong, but like I said, we're 100% net short, so this could get cleaned up pretty easily. So that makes me cautious there. So I'd say anywhere up into here, this area, I'm open to shorts. Otherwise, the bulls might have taken control just for the day. Okay, that's ES. Nasdaq, we'll finish this up here. Remember, Nasdaq, the XLK has not been strong. It's been relatively weak. It's weak this morning. So we have not even made new all-time highs. We have pretty levels here, though. We really do. We really do. Okay. So let's mark off some levels here. All right. Pretty nice. You have equal lows almost here in your NASDAQ, which line up with ultimate balance. Now, ultimate balance is your most traded price of the month, which is your 257s. Right on the nose. 257s. Right on the nose. Okay. That goes all the way down to the 256 and a halves. Okay. So we're going to mark off Friday's lows in ultimate balance. All right. The NASDAQ is above that level right now. So in structure, it needs to stay above this in order to have the bullish bias. Okay. You want it to hold. And now this orange box is the most traded price of the rolling year. Remember, I was talking about the NASDAQ is such in thick volume. There's so much trading that's happened in this area in the last month, in the last week, and in the last year. It's crazy. Okay, so if the market loses that orange box and you start to get continuation, that is very bearish. But it does. You notice the market all the way to here has not really breached that orange box. All right, that's the most traded price of the rolling year. That's very important. Okay, now let's look at this. We also have supply up here. Okay, you have yet Friday's highs, Friday's close. Now you also are 100% net short in the NASDAQ. The only thing the NASDAQ didn't do that the ES did, it didn't sweep. It did not sweep Friday's lows. It did not sweep it. Okay? Price is here. So, we'll have to see. Remember, this is very poor structure on the way down. 100% net short means, and we're holding above, even though we didn't sweep, the ES did. This could just easily ride right back up here. And I'm not saying we break out, but it could easily just get taken back. If financials get bought and technology gets bought off the open, we're going to clean this up and maybe we just do this for the day. Like I said, it could be a very ugly day. Okay? Okay. Now, our midpoint are almost equal. Look at that. So that's your 50% retracement of Friday. That's your 50% retracement of the overnight. So around 258 right there. That will be my line where I don't want to go short above it. The market probably will get strong. Now there is single prints here, so remember there's never exact lines in the futures market. Sometimes there's areas. Let's say if we just wicked through here and then we did this, yes, I would still be open to short it. Okay, let's break out this session. Let's look at the price action, 30-minute bars. What's happened in the overnight? You can see it's a very nice little swing low here put in. Okay, and what are we doing? We're just really hanging out above ultimate balance. We're hanging out above ultimate balance. Remember, 100% net short. If the market gets some momentum, you can clean this up pretty good. Okay, so what would I look for? All right, what would I look for? We do have somewhat of a manipulation leg here, which could distribute higher. We're having problems with this bearish fair value gap. Okay. So what would I like to see? Right? Let's go into scenarios now. We're going to start with the bull side. Right? What do we have? We have our 100% net short in the overnights. We did not sweep Friday's lows. However, it looks like this could be a nice stick in the ground. So what would I like to see? So if the market pulled back, even if it's swept, right? I'll give you a bear trap. Let's say we take out this swing low, which happens to be the overnight lows, and we take out the RTH lows of Friday, and we go into the orange box, which is the most traded price of the rolling year. And let's say we do this, and we make a close in a 1 hour candle back inside this range. Yeah, that was your manipulation. You're going to hold this level, and you're going to start working off this thin volume up here, and you're probably going to try to work yourself up towards Friday's highs. Okay, that is one. Number two, what could we do? Right here, you got a little resistance. We could push up in here into this bearish fair value gap. Remember that 50% line, right? Let's say we start doing this, and then we pull back to the 50% line. Well, and if the market's tech catches a bid today, that can bring us right back up. Okay, so these are two things that I'll be interested in, right? It's all about where liquidity is. Who's leading? Is tech going to lead today? Right now, tech is weak. Financials is weak. Semis are weak. That does not bode well. But when the market opens, if that reverses and they become strong, the market should push higher. But I don't know. I never know, right? If I claim to know, then I'm a fake. Okay. Let's put that demarcation line again. That's a 50%. Let me make that white. Oh, boy. Hold on a second here. All right. Let's move on. Shorts. All right. So, let's see what we do here. We're in a bearish fair value gap in here. Okay. And above this right here, you got single prints. Very thin volume. Very poor structure. All right. Now, remember, just like if the single prints, the bearish fair value gap's the same kind of way. You want to see how the market handles it. If the market right now, see it came right back into this bearish fair value gap here. It sold off. Came right back. It's getting some selling again. So you want to see how this bearish fair value gap handles the market. If it gets respected, that's bearish. Okay. Right now it's getting respected. So any push up here, so maybe sweep these highs, come in here, make a lower high. Now all this liquidity, all the longs in here can get taken out like this, come through ultimate balance. Now you could sweep these swing lows, the overnight lows. You could take out the Friday's lows. This is your orange box. If you do not know that's the most traded price of the rolling year, then you're out of luck. You don't know that's there. Okay, so this is your, if you want to hold a runner, if we cut through this like that, whoa, that is not good. Okay, we could very much free fall all the way down to last week's lows, 254.06. Okay, 254.06. Like I said, I do not know what's going to happen. Now remember, Nasdaq 100, it's really tech. It really, believe it or not, has Costco. It does have Eli Lilly in it, but they're in a small weighted. It's really tech. So if technology is weak and financials, oh boy, this could get very ugly. Right? So that is the move. I think the move to the downside is a bigger move than to the upside. And we're coming out of what? Ultimate balance. Ultimate balance. Okay? So we'll have to see what transpires. Now, also, if you're conservative, we break through here. I'm not crazy about it, but if you do find acceptance here, this could be a short down here. Like I said, if we come up here into this bearish value gap and hit the single prints from the overnights, that is probably my last shot. If we really get rejected hard, that could be another short back to just ultimate balance. Anything acceptance above that, like around the 258s, that means the market pretty much is firming up, and we're probably going to reverse and at least go back up to here with that 100% net short in the overnights. 100% net short in the overnights with this nice swing low here. It could just be a melt up, take out this poor structure today. I don't know. We'll have to see. But that is the scenarios for today. All right. Please smash that like button if you enjoyed that analysis. That would mean a lot to me. And as always, hopefully you can join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert, give you the market story, the market news, economic calendar, leaders and laggards. And I just gave you a bunch of technical analysis. I gave you my market internals recap. I gave you my 1 hour charts. And I just gave you long and short trade scenarios in the NASDAQ and the ES futures. Okay, remember it's Monday. Mondays are squirrely. Okay, Mondays are very squirrely. Okay, digest all this news with Trump and the Fed, the credit card interest rate cap that hurt credit cards, the financials. Okay, we have CPI tomorrow. We have the Supreme Court SCOTUS, Supreme Court opinion on tariffs on Wednesday. Big week. We have financials earnings. JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, Bank of America. Big week. Okay? A lot of stuff can happen from now. Monday, like I said, I would say right now I would lean, little bit lean, that we're going to go higher. But I don't know. Okay? I would lean higher. We swept liquidity in the ES. And I just that we're finding support at ultimate balance in both. I would lean that we probably go higher. And I don't, with all this stuff that I just talked about, I don't think this market's ready to break either down or up. I think it's going, it needs more information. There's too much uncertainty. That's my opinion. Okay? So, now, if you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, sign up. What are you waiting for? Come join me today. All right, come join me today while I give you intraday commentary. And hopefully, maybe let's try not to concentrate too much on price action. And we'll just look at the structure and be like, what are we doing here? All right, I could tell you we're in the middle of the muck here. There's not much for me to do. Of course, if your style is scalping or short term and that doesn't really matter, then it doesn't really matter. But it's still good to know it. Okay? Still good to know it. And I will just say this is what the capabilities of this market is today. So I'm pretty good at least giving you the story of the markets each day. All right? With pretty high accuracy. So come join me. All right? If I don't see you in my Discord, I will see you tomorrow morning. All right, everybody?